We're here at Rivian's engineering labs in Palo Alto, and right behind me was their first product, the R1T. Rivian makes high-end electric vehicles. The trouble is they start above $70,000. They want to change that. They're making now a vehicle that hits right at the center of the market, the R2, which starts at $45,000. This is what Rivian says will take it from being a niche automaker of high-end vehicles to a truly mainstream and profitable company.
The R2 is a test to show Wall Street that they can actually bring costs down and produce vehicles at a profitable level.
They've established a brand which is resonating with people. The technology is good. In many ways, you can say of the startups, the closest thing to Tesla.
Now, the company is hoping to prove that its outdoor luxury identity can translate from an expensive hobby for the few to a household staple for the many. Enter the R2, a mid-sized SUV that competes in one of the most popular segments in the US. CNBC got an exclusive ride-along in the R2 with the CEO and founder of Rivian.
R2's really instrumental for driving the business to positive cash flow and overall profitability. If we can have the type of market share that we have on R1, where it's the market share leader with R2, we'd have a real challenge of making enough of them. So this is the hope.
Rivian was founded in 2009 by R.J. Scaringe under the name Mainstream Motors. It spent the first few years working to build an electric sports car before rebranding to Rivian in 2011. It eventually shifted focus to building an electric truck and SUV, unveiling the R1T and R1S at the LA Auto Show in 2018.
With the R1, it was our first introduction as a brand, and we needed to go so far above and beyond, make the most capable off-road vehicle that's simultaneously great on-road the world has ever seen, that's also electric.
Rivian has some big backers. In 2019, Amazon invested $700 million into the company, inking an agreement to purchase 100,000 electric delivery vans. Ford also invested $500 million and entered into a partnership to co-develop an electric vehicle that ultimately fell apart in late 2021.
Amazon remains their largest shareholder, and that was largely not as an investment for profits. It was more so to assist Amazon in getting electric vans to market.
In November 2021, the company went public at a $66.5 billion valuation, skyrocketing to just under $100 billion in the first day of trading. The stock has since dropped around 85%. Rivian first began delivering vehicles to customers in late 2021. To date, it has remained a low-volume manufacturer. In 2025, it delivered 42,247 vehicles.
Those first-gen vehicles have done actually okay from a volume standpoint when you consider what price point they're selling at. They've taken share in the luxury SUV market.
In March 2024, Rivian unveiled its next-generation vehicles, the R2 and R3, which it intends to sell at a lower price point and is hoping will appeal to a broader market.
Within about 20 hours, we had just under 70,000 reservations. It was a lot of excitement right out of the gate.
It hits the segment of the market that is obviously a little bit more price sensitive. It is squarely positioned in the same segment as Model Y.
The Tesla Model Y was the best-selling EV in America in 2025 by far.
R2 is an opportunity for them to really be much more focused on scale and generating profit.
This is a early pre-production R2.
What does this mean for the company?
In many ways, this is the most important thing that we've developed as a company, the most important product. It starts at $45,000. It's 300 miles of range. It's a 5-passenger SUV. It's a dramatic reduction in the cost structure to build it.
5-passenger SUV. Why does that matter?
So it's the most popular configuration of vehicle in the United States. In our view, we don't have enough choice of electric vehicles in that segment. We made hundreds and hundreds of decisions to optimize around cost through part elimination, part consolidation. We went through every single part and said, does this deserve to be on the car? Can we find a way to get rid of it?
How do you avoid the famous production hell that other automakers went through?
Having gone through a version of that ourselves where we just had so many challenges when we first launched R1, we built a lot of rigorous systems to make sure we're All of our suppliers and our suppliers' suppliers are ready to ramp.
Now, Rivian has spent billions of dollars, and it's on track to spend many billions more. But behind that is an intense focus on cutting costs. One way it's doing it, simplifying designs. With every generation of vehicles, it's trying to reduce the number of parts and vertically integrate as much as possible.
This is our electrical lab. This is where all our hardware engineers do the bulk of their design, testing, development. We saved 1.6 miles of wiring going from R1 Gen 1 to R1 Gen 2. We shaved 2.3 miles of wiring, 2.3 miles, going from an R1 Gen 2 to an R2.
The entire philosophy is how do we build a product that really takes the entire essence of the Rivian brand with an architecture that simplifies the hardware, reduces cost, and then move that complexity to software. All this together is now part of this unit. This is savings in 3-digit dollars. And you multiply that by the volume, and this is where you see how this investment is paying off for us.
The importance of the R2 to Rivian is actually underneath the vehicle's skin. Rivian has said that this vehicle is far less expensive to produce.
Beyond the R2, Rivian's next big bet is to follow in Tesla's footsteps and add autonomous driving features to its vehicles. In December 2025, the company hosted its first Autonomy and AI Day, where it showed off its latest AV developments and roadmap to Level 4 self-driving.
Following eyes off, the next major step will be personal Level 4.
The Autonomy Plus features will be an upsell in the R2 and second-gen R1 vehicles coming in early 2026.
Hands off everywhere, so we call it universal hands-free, and then point-to-point. So you put the address in, the car will drive you to where you're going, but you as the occupant of the vehicle will still be required to sit in the front seat, still be required to be alert. And then once we get past that point, we'll then start to enable what we call personal L4. So the vehicle can drive you entirely itself. It can drive empty to go, let's say, pick up your kids.
Their new systems now are coming out with hands-free driving, and RJ was even talking about robo-taxis with L4. It's something that Wall Street's looking at as a possible growth opportunity for them.
Rivian vehicles are equipped with the hardware to support autonomy, but the company says the new R2 will be a step up from the R1.
We have 11 cameras, 5 radar, including a front imaging radar. And not at launch, but shortly after launch, we'll be also adding a LiDAR that'll sit at the top of the windshield, along with an in-house compute platform. The cameras deliver 65 megapixels of images, so it's a very camera-heavy architecture.
Another upgrade following the R2 launch will be the self-driving computer, which features silicon developed in-house by Rivian.
It's an 800 TOPS platform. We have 2 of them for 1600 TOPS in the system, so it's by a significant degree the most powerful inference platform in a vehicle today.
The messaging from Rivian here was that this was critical in unlocking a better bang for buck of processing per unit. And really this allows them to tailor fit the processing capabilities to what the vehicle is going to need.
In 2024, the company announced a partnership to license its software to Volkswagen Group in a $5.8 billion deal to create next-generation software-defined vehicles.
The Rivian-Volkswagen deal made all the sense in the world. Rivian needed cash, Volkswagen needed technology.
The Volkswagen relationship, it's a great proof point for us, or demonstration of just how capable our platforms are. We see that as a really interesting growth opportunity in the long term.
We thought about our system since day one in a way where other automakers can use it. Starting 2027 with the first vehicle, which will be the VW ID.1, every single new EV in the Volkswagen Group will be powered by Rivian electrical architecture and then Rivian software.
Beyond the R2, Rivian has also unveiled a smaller hatchback, the R3, that is expected to start under $40,000.
What's the timeline for R3?
2028 is what we've said, but we haven't given anything more specific. R3 is the same platform as what we're riding on right now, so it's a common platform, different top hat. It embodies a lot of the things you're seeing right here.
When the R3 does come to market, the company has said it will be built at its Georgia plant. In September 2025, Rivian broke ground on that new $5 billion EV plant outside Atlanta, with production expected to begin in 2028. First announced in 21, construction was delayed as the company focused on cost cutting.
Rivian's Georgia plant was announced during what we've called a period of EV euphoria. It was Georgia's one of their biggest investments, if not the biggest investment that they had.
Georgia is still a critical step for them, but they're going to need the volume to justify Georgia. They potentially could put all of that in the US, but more likely than not, they're really going to need to begin exporting units to justify that incremental volume.
You gonna go international?
Yeah, so the R2 and the R3 are both designed from the very first design decisions, architectural decisions to support US and European markets.
I think part of R3 is targeted for the European market and the global markets. The global expansion is going to have its challenges, right? You'll have to now build the sales and repair and service network or have channel partners globally.
But before that, it faces the challenge of ramping up R2 production.
I've covered the auto industry for almost 15 years, and I have never covered a flawless vehicle launch. You have thousands of parts coming into a plant. You have hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers supplying those said parts. And every part, every component has to fit together and work properly, or the launch can get delayed.
To cover its fixed costs and start making profits on the R2, the company needs to ramp up production as fast as possible.
The Gen 2 vehicle will always have a better cost proposition than the Gen 1 just because of the maturity that comes with experience and launching multiple vehicles. Whether you're making, 40,000 or 100,000 of a vehicle, these kinds of upfront development costs are fixed in nature. And therefore, the more volume we get out of it, the better the economies of scale are.
Rivian had a lot of painful lessons learned in 2022. Really, that was the first full year of production for R1. And alongside a number of supply chain challenges, it was also lessons learned on manufacturing.
But Rivian says it is better prepared for the R2 launch.
One of the really big lifts is building a team that's capable of doing all those things. So this is a huge difference between R2 and R1. The teams are very robust, highly functioning, well-practiced, so to speak.
Where are the choke points or bottlenecks?
You're only as fast as your slowest source of supply. So if a single bolt is coming in at half the volume of the rest of the components, it will slow down production. It's an area we've now built a lot of rigor and capability around.
Launching a new vehicle is expensive. Rivian lost nearly $3 billion in the first 3 quarters of 2025.
At the end of the third quarter, they had $7.7 billion in equity. 7.1 of that was in cash. They have billions of dollars in the bank, but they also need billions of dollars to kind of take this vehicle to the next level and get to that mass production.
Do you have the funding that you need to get through the R2 ramp?
We've vertically integrated a tremendous amount of technology. And the reason for that is in the long term, as we achieve scale, that creates a significant structural cost advantage. We're going to see that realized over the next 18 months as we ramp R2.
They need to have really good execution. Our model has them with sufficient funding capabilities, but the margin for error is not incredibly high.
For now, Rivian plans to stick to its unveiled price of $45,000, despite rising costs and the impact of market forces, such as tariffs.
Everyone who I've talked to on Wall Street believes that that's going to be pretty hard to hit, if not maintain. They might offer one trim or kind of start there, but eventually costs are probably going to have to go up pretty quickly.
The R2 is launching at an especially challenging time for electric vehicles.
The entire EV industry right now is at a crossroads. Following the end of EV tax credits last year by the Trump administration, we saw EV sales get cut in half.
Rivian delivered 9,745 vehicles in the fourth quarter of 2025, about a 31% drop from the same period a year earlier.
They're also entering a market that has a lot more competition. It's going to be challenging, even if they have a great product.
What does help them, though, is that the US auto market is quite solid right now. So Rivian is entering into a market that is competitive. It is weak for EVs, but the market as a whole is actually quite solid for vehicles.
As the R2 launch nears, all eyes are on Rivian during this pivotal phase. looking to see whether it can deliver on its promises of finally making a profit.
Their cash burn is coming down. They're starting to make a little bit of positive gross profit margin on the vehicles. Whether they're able to, sustain that and strengthen their financial position going forward, time will tell.
This is the best vehicle we've developed to date. We're incredibly bullish on this and excited for it. Of course it's cheaper, but it doesn't mean it's not an aspirational product, something that you're really going to enjoy and love to be in.